And I am Fatboy here on this beautiful Wednesday morning, here hanging out with Mr. Inno Prince. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very fine. How about you, Fatboy?
I'm doing fine too, but probably not as fine as the artists, the musical fraternity of Uganda, whose leader, if we can call him that, I wonder if you've heard of an organization called the Uganda National Musicians Federation.
Yeah, actually there are two. There's that one and then the Uganda Music Federation.
The Cindy one.
Yeah, the Cindy one.
Okay, so between the two, I don't know which one is the more official one or which one represents the artists more.
But that one of Kenzo is the one that got the huge number compared to the Cindy one currently.
Well, that's the one that seems to have the ear of the president himself. Eddie Kenzo, who is the president of the Uganda National Musicians Federation, on Monday met up with the president in an apparent show of muscle in the music industry. In a meeting that they had on Monday, they discussed with the president, among other things, the urgent need for the amendment of the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act of 2006. So that's still a hot button issue for the music fraternity. This whole thing about copyright.
Wow, I can see they're still pushing this. The last time they managed to get into the parliament and had the talk with, was it the deputy speaker or the speaker of parliament? One of the two.
A couple of, some weeks ago, they all went in a big show of their muscle.
Yeah.
They went to parliament, took pictures, and I don't know what came of that.
We actually did get, an update on how that meeting went. And so now, I guess, just driven them to getting to meet the president.
Yeah.
But one would also assume that it's even more than the copyright, kind of movement that they're trying to push and see that the bill, all the
I think the copyright thing is the official reason and the official agenda they went with. But I'm sure their true reasons might have other
opportunistic want more than that. Just besides trying to get their, their issues sorted.
Not just the president, but also the musicians themselves. Because, let's not forget, they're doing this for the money as well.
Yeah, for the money.
And, the president has been known to be generous to musicians.
And also being that he came out and said that he's still fit to run for 2026.
There you go. So, obviously, those of us who are even moderately cynical would be quick to wonder whether or not there could be some other political motives behind this visit and this budding relationship. You recall that in the 2016 election or the time leading up to it, there was the Tubonga Nawe
campaign.
And they recorded a song and they recorded a video where all of the major artists of the time
were all in that song.
Apart from Bobby Wine.
Yeah, apart from Bobby Wine.
And maybe one other or two other people.
All the big artists in the industry were in that
Literally.
song. So you can also see what Kenzo is trying to do here. Yes, they're fighting for the copyright movement and everything to help the industry be solid and also them really reap what they're supposed to reap, which I very do understand. They need also that security and also to get their monies in the right form.
That's what I'm wondering, because who's not to say that they're also not angling for some of that money that might be in circulation in the upcoming elections, because look, we're all here hustling and everyone's looking for a way to make a buck. And if it is through political patronage, I mean, why should the artists be exempted? Previously, they've shown that they're more than happy to sell their souls
they're
to the government.
Where the bug is. One would wonder, why wouldn't they side with their fellow musician? Why wouldn't they side with Bobby Wine? And then be like, hey, Bobby Wine, let's push this in Parliament. We're together. We need the copyrights bill to be looked into and everything,
Well, anyway.
They go where the power is and where the money is.
And so, of course, it would be wise for the president to encourage this kind of bond with the music fraternity. And so if Eddie Kenzo, who's the leader of the Uganda National Musicians Federation, wants to meet with him, it's wise for him to agree to the meeting and to have these discussions as to whether or not this will lead to the passage of any sort of legislation for the Copyright Act. Well, I'm not really sure. I'm sure it wouldn't hurt, of course, to have the president back you up on this, so that if such a bill were ever amended or passed, that the president would assent to it. Well, this meeting between Eddie Kenzo and the president came just days after Cindy, speaking of Cindy, who is the president of the Uganda Musicians Association. She wrote a petition to the president protesting some of Eddie Kenzo's dealings with the government. In particular, she and other associations complained about the 18 billion shillings.
Wow.
Billion.
Wow. Billion.
18 billion. That the government has proposed to channel through the Uganda National Musicians Federation Eddie Kenzo's outfit, to the artists of the country, which she fears might benefit only a handful of people. So it's not even though that she's disagreeing in principle about the whole giving the money. Her concern is, hey, maybe only few will eat.
Yeah, one would assume that money will circulate in his federation, the people that are in his federation.
Exactly.
And then the Cindy crew will be, excluded from that.
So maybe that's what they're concerned
but
about.
I guess in this meeting that he held, I'm thinking that the president must have spoken about this to him. There was a time when he was talking about the artists in Uganda, and he was like, they're so divided that there's no unity among the artists in Uganda. I don't know if you saw that statement.
But what is the cause of the disunity? Tell me if it's anything else but money.
It's money.
It's money, it's clout. They're in such fierce competition with one another.
It's money. They want to have the bigger backing, the power that is...
And it really hurts me because, people, the citizens of this country are supporting these artists because they love the art, they love the craft, they love the music, the spirit of the music. Whereas the artists, on the other hand, are just being opportunistic about this and are quite happy to sell their souls to the highest bidder, because I'm sure among those who would support some of these artists, I'm sure there's many people, especially the young audience, who may not be so much in favor with the government.
Very true.
Because we've seen that mostly
it's the young
urban population tends to be the one that is not too much in support.
Yeah, but that's very true. You could even see those times when Bebe Cool got so connected to the government.
Yeah.
The times when Bebe Cool would go on the stage and people would throw bottles at Bebe Cool just because of all that.
Now this isn't. Don't get me wrong, Prince. I'm not saying that there aren't young people who do support the government. I'm sure there are many.
They're there.
But there's
a few.
Probably an equally large number of young people, if not more, who are not huge fans of the government. Many of whom are suffering from the government's policies like unemployment all this kind of stuff, right? So I wonder if they might be feeling betrayed by these artists who really seem to be showing every indication that they are interested in their own bellies.
But which you also, that directly shows you where these guys are. They're all about their bellies and their pockets. It's not about, their funds or, giving back to people in the society, like the musical society. It's all about...
to be honest...
It's seeing that their bank accounts keep growing. No matter how it will come their way, they'll go for it.
Now, in other countries, you don't normally see this, do you? I mean, of course, yes, artists are very vocal people, overseas in the West, and many do lend their support. They do lend their support to these, political movements, political parties, and so forth. So that's not, I think, unusual. I think what's unusual is, in Uganda's case at least, that there is a financial incentive attached to artists showing support for the government. And I think that's where the point of contention is. If Jay-Z comes out and says he supports Barack Obama,
it's not about money.
We know that Barack Obama isn't handing him a check.
He's not handing him a check. True.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very true.
Whereas in Uganda, where an Eddie Kenzo comes out in support, because it would shock me if Eddie Kenzo ever came out to support opposition.
It would be definitely.
It's almost impossible.
It's very impossible. There's actually most musicians don't really side with the opposition, because their intention is not about giving these people genuine support. Whoever they are going to side with, it's all about ripping.
So how is that not a betrayal of their audience? Because young people would want for musicians to use their voice,
their platform,
to speak to their issues.
Indeed.
But not to instead be the cheerleaders of the regime.
I would actually want to see how this will unfold for Kenzo and all the musicians. If this goes deep and maybe they get a good offer from the president, how will it affect their music journey going down the road? Or it will help us determine whether fans really mind about what these guys do behind their music.
I do get the feeling that the people that consume this music are not going to voice their displeasure by withholding their support from these artists. I think they're still going to be flocking to these artist shows. Everyone just cares for a good time. That's all they want. And so they will very quickly forget that the artists who they are financially supporting by paying for tickets to their shows are out there also receiving huge paychecks from the government, government who many of their own fans might not be in support of. And so I do see if I were a fan of one of these artists, I don't know, I'd be feeling nervous about this. Okay?
But I guess also that shows that they are very broke, maybe. One would assume they're not really getting enough.
Look, we're all in the same boat. Artists, border guys.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat, but then there's the way the boat rolls, that you have a side that you can get to that can sort you out in one or the other. So
Wow.
these guys are running to these people as their refuge. To tap into that money that they see these guys always splashing and playing around with.
Well, I'm not such a huge local artist fan. Like, I can't say there's a particular local artist who, like, oh gosh, he's my guy. He's my, or she's my girl. Or
You don't have any local artists.
There's no one that I hold in. I mean, I can like their music. Yeah, their music is
there's
nice.
no one that you hold.
But there's no one I hold in that light of, oh my gosh, they're so important to me. So on the larger scheme of things, I don't really care. But I'm just saying it's quite cynical on the part of these artists to utilize the platform that they have that has been built by appealing to the sentiments of young people and then using that footprint, using that influence to be able to sell, that same audience to the president.
Indeed.
By in some way showing support for the president. But of course, I don't want to say that this is pure speculation, because on one hand, if Eddie Kenzo says they went to discuss the copyright law, I can't argue with that. I'm just saying, I feel like that's not the whole story.
It's not the whole story. There's more to that. It's you can't tell me those guys went all the way to State House to sit down and discuss about just the copyright. Because whatever they wanted to discuss, I believe the Parliament, while they're in Parliament, that was the right place to sit down and sort out everything. Whatever this meeting was with the president, it is more than copyright. It's so, like, I guess they had gone to strategize, plan, structure for what's ahead.
But what do you think about the general idea of taxpayers in some way supporting these artists? So, for example, even if they were to convince you that their motives were pure and that this 18 billion that they're seeking is purely in support of artists and their craft, are you still okay with that? And the reason I'm asking is, look, music is like business. I mean, you create a product and you take it out there.
It's a hustle.
It's a hustle, just like everybody else. I don't know why we're singling artists for special treatment and special, because what about radio personalities? Do we also not need support? What about market vendors?
The whole taxpayers.
What about hawkers? What about border guys?
True.
Why are we treating artists as though they're this
the exceptional, they're the people who that really need the attention?
We're treating them like we're treating these traditional rulers.
Indeed.
Where it almost sounds like the argument is, that the artists are such integral parts of society that therefore money should be set aside to support them. Yeah, but why them only? Everyone is important in society.
Yeah, everyone is important in society, but you see, the government, they look at what these people manage to impact on society, what they can manage to bring on ground.
Yeah, but what is it that you see, if, for example, that money was being channeled to, say, traditional musicians or traditional dancers, cultural music and cultural dancing, for me as a taxpayer, I can get behind, because I would see great value in preserving
culture
and assisting some of those cultural elements so that they can live, so that they can exist long into the future for our children and grandchildren to benefit from. But if you're just like a raga dancehall artist twerking on stage, I don't see why my tax shillings should be supporting you.
It doesn't make sense.
And you're nonsense.
I actually also don't agree with that, because I believe if you're in the music industry, you're just hustling just like any person out there that maybe is trying to run a business, that is trying to do something. So you have to look for the money on yourself, and to get to the top.
That's it. And if you're struggling,
it's your input. The government doesn't have to come your way.
I don't see why I should support you just because you're struggling. You see, because I probably don't even like your music, so I don't care if you fall off and no one likes your music and no one attends your shows. Get a different job.
Actually, if you look at even the people who are in that federation of Kenzo, very few artists have done a great work maybe this year.
You know what I mean? And
most are just going to feed off
my
that privilege that they have gained to be a part of the federation. But anyway, it's very, very
So that has to be, I think, a serious debate that needs to be had because I'm not sure what cultural value many of the young urban pop musicians have in our country to warrant an 18 billion infusion of cash. I'm not sure I buy that argument.
I also don't buy it, and but let's see how this will go. But the government knows what they want.
Yeah,
that's the thing in between.
That's a safe assumption.
They control the money, so they'll put it wherever they feel like putting it.
He who pays the piper calls the tune, as they say.
Indeed.
Well, Eddie Kenzo, in a post that he put up on social media or on Tuesday evening, he described his meeting with the president as a, quote, quest for streamlining our industry and lobbying for a well-functioning music industry. So not so many words saying, yep, it's all about selling our souls.
Indeed.
He said the meeting entailed a great discussion in which Museveni promised to look into the copyright issue with the urgency that it requires. Well, there you go.
They are all trying to play smart on this, but they know where they're going with it.
We all know where they're going with it, man.